The hose was still hissing when I caught her. Sunlight hit the chrome spigot like a mirror flash, and there she was, Karen, our HOA president, standing ankle-deep on my concrete patio, garden hose in hand, filling my pool like she owned the place. She didn't even flinch when I stepped out. "Oh good, you're home," she said. "We're hosting the HOA's summer kickoff here this weekend. You need to get this ready." No, may I? No, could we? Just you need to. I stared at her over the glare of the water. "You're trespassing," I said flatly. She gave that dismissive chuckle only people with too much confidence and too little authority seem to master. "It's in the bylaws. All shared amenities must be made available for community use. My pool, my water bill, my insurance. Shared amenity? Not a chance." I told her to leave. She rolled her eyes, set the hose down like she was the one giving orders, and said, "I'll bring the sign-up sheet by tomorrow." Then she walked out my gate, the latch still clicking behind her, as if she'd won something. That was the first drop of chlorine in what would become a flood. The next morning, I found an HOA violation notice taped to my door. Unapproved water feature, non-compliant fencing height, visible equipment. My pool had been in compliance since I built it 4 years ago. Same fence, same pump, same everything. The only thing new was her ambition. By day 3, the letters kept coming. Each one thicker, meaner, more desperate to sound official. Late fees, compliance hearings, threats of liens. It wasn't about rules. It was about control. I called the property manager. He sighed like he'd had this conversation before. "She's new," he said. "She's enthusiastic." "Enthusiastic doesn't cover it," I told him. "She's forging enforcement letters." He hesitated. "She does draft them herself sometimes." There it was. Confirmation. She wasn't even hiding it. The following Saturday, I spotted a clipboard under my gate, wedged against the slats. A sign-up sheet. HOA Summer Bash. Host, Karen. Venue, my address. 12 signatures already. Some names I recognized. Some were scrawled like they were written in the dark. That night, I sat under the porch light with my laptop and the HOA bylaws PDF open. Article 4, Section 2. The association has no claim to improvements on private lots without express, written consent of the owner. Gotcha. I highlighted it, printed it, and taped it right where she'd taped her last notice, center of my door. Monday morning, she struck again. I heard the beep of a car horn, stepped outside, and found her talking to a landscaper crew at my curb. "She wants us to trim back your hedge," the foreman told me. Karen folded her arms. "It's obstructing the community view line." "Community view of what?" I asked. She didn't answer. I opened my phone, hit record, and zoomed in on her license plate as she stomped away. Evidence, time-stamped. The camera would become my best friend. By the end of that week, she had filed a formal complaint with the HOA board. I wasn't maintaining my shared facility. Shared facility. She used those words again. I emailed the board directly, copied the City Code Enforcement Office, and attached my footage of her trespass. No reply. Not even a, "We'll look into it." That's when I realized this wasn't going to stop on its own. She wanted a party. Fine. She was going to get one. Just not the kind she expected. So I started planning. I cleaned my pool one last time, backwashed the filter, and measured the water line with a contractor's level. Then I made a note in my logbook. June 14th, 7:42 p.m. Baseline established. From that moment, every gallon would count. Because if she was going to claim my pool was community property, I was going to show the community exactly what that meant. That weekend, her flyers went up around the neighborhood. HOA Summer Kickoff, Saturday, 1 p.m. Bring your swimsuits. My address, in bold. And that's when the idea hit me. Simple, silent, undeniable. I went out back, twisted the drain valve, and listened as tens of thousands of gallons of water began to roar into the storm gutter. The pool emptied like a timer running down. If she wanted to take over my property, she'd find out what empty really meant. Next morning, I found her standing by the fence, phone in hand, shrieking into the camera. "He drained the pool! He vandalized the community resource!" I just sipped my coffee and waved. "Looks like a maintenance issue, Karen." Her face went scarlet. She pointed at me like she was calling in artillery. "You'll regret this! I'm calling the cops!" And she did. 3 cruisers showed up within 15 minutes. They didn't find a crime scene. They found a dry, private pool and a homeowner with permits, insurance, and footage of every inch of the process. The lead officer glanced at me, then at her and said, "Ma'am, this is his property. You might want to step off it." The look on her face was better than any pool party. But that was just the start. Because Karen wasn't done, and I wasn't finished collecting proof. The cops left. Karen didn't. She stood on the curb with her arms folded, jaw tight, phone still recording. "This isn't over," she said. "You can't just drain a community pool." I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I picked up my phone, flipped open the HOA bylaws again, and took a slow panoramic video of the dry concrete shell behind me, every crack, every leaf, every inch of proof that it was mine. "Community pool," I murmured. "Sure." The next morning, I filed a formal incident report with the county recorder's office. Unauthorized entry and attempted misuse of private property. Then I dropped copies of the police report, my security footage, and a highlighted copy of Article 4, Section 2 in a folder labeled Exhibit A. If she wanted to make this legal, I'd give her paperwork to choke on. Within a week, my cameras started paying off. At 6:03 a.m., my doorbell cam caught her leaning over my fence again, this time with a clipboard and a phone light. She was snapping photos of the empty pool and muttering something about negligence. At 6:05, the side gate sensor pinged. I watched the playback, her trying the latch, realizing it was locked, then glaring at the camera. Freeze frame, timestamp, saved. By 7 o'clock, I had sent the footage to my attorney, Mark Kincaid, a quiet, detail-obsessed man who'd made a career dismantling overreaching HOAs. He called me back before lunch. "Classic overstep," he said. "She's not acting under the authority of the board. She's impersonating it. That's fraud." "Can we prove it?" I asked. He chuckled. "You already did. But let's tighten the chain of custody. Keep all original footage on the cloud and local drive. Send me duplicates weekly. And don't confront her again. Let her hang herself." Sounded good to me. Meanwhile, I started digging deeper. Our HOA's meeting minutes were public, technically. They were also a mess of scanned PDFs with half the pages missing. But buried in the archives, I found what I needed. Her self-appointed community event coordinator role wasn't even ratified. She'd just written it in one meeting and never submitted the form. Unauthorized position, unauthorized event, unauthorized access. Perfect. I printed every relevant page, numbered them, and stacked them into Exhibit B. By July, the weather turned brutal. 98 degrees by noon, and the neighborhood kids kept biking by asking, "Hey, Mr. Carter, when's the pool gonna be ready again?" "Not sure, buddy," I'd say, smiling. "There's a leak in the HOA." And there was. My mailbox started filling with unsigned complaint slips. Unsightly pool, unsafe condition, breach of HOA standards. The kicker? Each one used the same font, same grammar mistakes, same wording as Karen's emails. She was manufacturing complaints. I set up a trail camera in my front garden bed, hidden behind the mailbox post. 2 nights later, it caught her sliding another one in, looking both ways like she was in a spy movie. The next morning, I took the SD card straight to the sheriff's substation. The deputy watched the footage, sighed and said, "She's on your property again. That's trespassing." He typed up a no-contact order on the spot. "She's served the minute she receives this. Want me to deliver it personally?" I smiled. I'd pay admission to that. But Mark, my lawyer, had a different idea. "Let her serve herself," he said. "We'll do it in public." "Public?" I asked. He grinned. "The next HOA meeting. She's bound to show." That week, I prepared for the showdown. I printed everything. The incident reports, the photos, the emails, the bylaws, even a diagram showing the exact property boundary from the county surveyor's office. The one with the stamped coordinates proving the pool sat 3 feet inside my legal lot line. Then I went one step further. Using a spare phone and a waterproof case, I set up a hidden camera in my backyard, aimed straight at the pool. The goal wasn't surveillance anymore, it was documentation. I wanted a clear record of whatever stunt she'd pull next, and she didn't disappoint. 2 nights before the HOA meeting, I caught her on camera again, flashlight in one hand, clipboard in the other, standing at my fence with a tape measure. She was trying to prove my fence violated community uniformity codes. She didn't notice the blinking red LED watching her. By the time the meeting rolled around, my case was airtight. But I still needed one last piece, the smoking gun. So I visited a local water testing lab. I had them analyze the trace residue left in the pool, chlorine levels, calcium, pH, everything. The report came back signed and dated, confirming no contamination and no code violations. Why? Because I knew exactly what she'd claim next. He drained it illegally. Evidence preloaded. When I walked into that HOA meeting with my folder, I wasn't angry anymore. I was ready. Mark was waiting in the back row, calm as a sniper. The deputy who issued the no-contact order sat beside him, flipping through his notes. Karen, meanwhile, stood at the front of the room, gesturing dramatically to a printout of my pool. "This homeowner has damaged community morale and violated maintenance obligations under Article 6. Except Article 6 didn't exist. I raised my hand. "Madam President, before we go further, I have exhibits you'll want to review." Her smile faltered, and in that quiet humming moment, ceiling fans spinning, neighbors whispering, legal folders stacked on the table, I realized something. The pool wasn't the fight. The principle was. The chair recognized me. I stepped forward, set my folder on the table and said, "Let's start with the trespass on June 3rd. Karen blinked. "The what?" I hit play on my phone. The video filled the screen. Her, holding the hose, filling my pool. The room went silent. Her face turned the same color as the no diving sign she'd once tried to make me hang. The air in that HOA meeting turned heavy, like thunder waiting for a strike. My video kept playing, the hiss of the hose, her voice ordering me to get it ready for the party. You could even hear the splash of the first few gallons hitting the deep end. When it ended, nobody said a word. Then Mark, my lawyer, stood from the back row. "For the record," he said, "that's an unauthorized use of private property. I have certified copies of the police report and the county plat map proving ownership." He set them on the table with a neat thud. Karen tried to laugh it off. "This is ridiculous. It's a misunderstanding." The deputy rose next, holding a folded sheet of paper. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "you've been served a no-contact order. You are not to enter or approach this man's property again. That includes the pool." Her jaw dropped. "You can't do that here." He shrugged. "Just did." The room murmured. Someone in the back whispered, "Guess the pool isn't shared after all." But Karen wasn't the type to surrender gracefully. She jabbed a manicured finger toward me. "He drained the pool deliberately to harm the HOA. That's vandalism." Perfect. She'd just walked into her own trap. I flipped open my binder to the water lab report. "Actually," I said, "I drained it under licensed maintenance procedures. The chlorine levels were within EPA guidelines. Here's the certified analysis and timestamp. I slid it across the table. Filed before the incident you're describing. The HOA treasurer, a quiet man who rarely looked up from his spreadsheets, took the papers, adjusted his glasses and said, "She's making false claims on record. That's liability for us." Karen blinked. "Wait. For us?" He nodded slowly. "You're the president, Karen. That means you represent us legally. If you act outside your authority, we all pay for it." You could practically hear the gears in the room shifting. Neighbors who'd once smiled politely at her started frowning. I didn't need to say anything else. The board did my talking for me. 10 minutes later, they voted, unanimously, to suspend her pending investigation. She tried to storm out, but the deputy stopped her. "You'll want to sign the receipt of service first." Her pen shook. She scrawled her signature and slammed it down. As she left, she glared at me like she was trying to burn holes through my head. "You think this is over?" she hissed. I kept my voice even. "It's documented." The aftermath came fast. Within a week, she'd stepped down for personal reasons. The HOA quietly issued a formal apology letter, not public, of course, but enough to make the point. Then came the twist I didn't expect. An email from the city zoning department landed in my inbox. They'd received a complaint, anonymous naturally, claiming I'd illegally modified my drainage line when I emptied the pool. But whoever filed it didn't realize. The deputy had logged my drainage runoff video as part of the trespass report, time-stamped, GPS verified, and compliant. So when the inspector showed up, clipboard in hand, I handed him the footage and the permit. He smiled. "Looks like somebody wanted to make trouble for you." I shrugged. "She's out of office now." He closed his folder. "Then she's out of luck." The final backfire came at the next HOA meeting, 2 months later. Attendance was higher than ever. Curiosity draws a crowd. The new interim president called the meeting to order, then opened with a statement. "The board has resolved the prior dispute regarding the community event venue. The property in question is privately owned and was never designated for association use. Misrepresentation of authority will not be tolerated." He glanced at me. "Mr. Carter, thank you for your cooperation." I nodded, glad to help clarify boundaries. Polite applause followed, even a few chuckles, and that's when I dropped the cherry on top. During my turn for open comments, I said, "Since the HOA was so interested in using my pool for community benefit, I've decided to make it available, on one condition." They all leaned in. "Hourly rentals," I said, "through a third-party app. $500 per hour, HOA members get 10% off, payment in advance." Laughter rippled through the room. Even the treasurer smiled. By late summer, my pool was cleaner than ever. The cameras were upgraded, and the bylaws had been amended to require 2/3 board approval for any event on private property. Karen moved out quietly that fall. Word was, she tried to run for another HOA board across town, but a simple Google search of her name, tied to the police report, made that campaign sink before it started. Now, every time I step out to my patio, I see the faint line where the water once sat and remember the lesson that cost her everything. Boundaries protect peace. Paperwork protects boundaries. If you've ever had a neighbor or an HOA try to strong-arm your property rights, document everything, stay calm, and let the facts do the talking. Justice doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it just drains quietly. Drop your own HOA nightmare in the comments, and subscribe if you love seeing bullies backfire.